Hello from Lviv, Ukraine. Orest is here, and I already lost track of how many days have passed since the start of the Russian invasion in Ukraine. It's definitely over a week, so 8, 9, something like this. And today was one of the most difficult, emotional day for me. So basically I woke up without the airstrike alarm, which is already a good news. I started working, communicating, building up connections with the people all around the world, with the foreign media, keeping track how my team is doing with editing those videos. And my father called me and asked me like, Orest, what are you doing now? I like regular stuff. That's what I'm supposed to do now, in those times. He told, would you be able, please, to our apartment, the apartment where my parents live and where I grew up, because there is my grandmother and he could not manage to take her out of the apartment. She is an old lady, she is 90 years old, and since all the females from my family, apart from my wife, my mother, my sister, another sister, they already evacuated from Ukraine. My father was driving there every night, taking care of my granny, so we could not simply let her stay alone. And moreover, the area is very close to the airport, so who knows what can be in the nearest future. So in order to stay mobile, we had to take her out of the apartment and put in the particular safe place where people will be caring about her. So obviously I had to go and help my father, which is around 7 kilometers from the downtown. Since I usually was taking that route and the public transportation in Lviv is functioning pretty efficient at the moment, I went to my traditional bus station where to take it, but I decided to take a taxi, and I was really surprised that Uber is back, comparing to the first day when the war started. And even the Bolt service, the Bolt taxi, is working. And what really astonished me in a good way was that they offer free rides to people. So very symbolically, you just pay 1 hryvnia and then they take you somewhere. So it's such an amazing support, guys. I still understand that drivers have to earn something too. That's why obviously I took the normal rate, and it's not inflated, even though the demand is very high. The traffic in the city in that direction was not really bad, and in 15 minutes I was already in the place where I actually grew up. Привет! Since all the females from our family, except my wife and her mother, are already in a safe place abroad, our last housekeeping job is to take care of my grandmother. She's the only one remaining from the older generation, and in order to be mobile with my father, with Marta, we are bringing Granny to the nursing home, so she can stay there, and we are able, to move around quickly in case if needed. Так, Kit, give us to film, please. Voila! My granny looks super cool. Бабцю, гарно виглядаєш. Beautiful. Father was not able to help her by himself, so he asked me to come. This is the apartment where I grew up. And I was between 3 and 16 years I lived here. And now I don't know. My granny has a very tragic story. When this goes away, I will tell you. This is her room. My grandfather died a couple of years ago, and from here she has a view to the church that she can look and pray. Lately, our cat Milka was the best friend of my grandmother. And this is the sewing machine.
You see, it's a Zinger style, like very old. Maybe 10 years ago my grandmother was still fine, and she wears stuff for me. Let's make her bed. Hopefully we'll come here again. Okay, Grandma, Babchu, we are going for the trip. Let's go, let's have a ride. So this playground is new, and you see, this used to be a village over here, but during Soviet times, all these areas were built up, were developed. So our backyard is a typical Soviet neighborhood.
Yeah, and Soviet.
And Soviet?
Yeah.
The end of Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Some new things over here, and also you can see the trash bins, but they are clean. The park where I used to play, and you see the hills. These, we were like jumping on the bicycles over there. I even broke my collarbone. Yeah, that is actually the building, and one of the windows from that side is the bedroom of my grandmother. So when she were watching, she could look across the street exactly on this church. So even when she was not able to walk anymore properly, she was still praying. So this entire neighborhood was developed in the late 80s, just before the collapse of Soviet Union. And my grandfather used to be one of the chief of the construction process. This part, it used to be the huge kinescope. Yeah, it was a kinescope factory. Yeah. Some parts of the factory are really ruined, but however, this is the process of demolishing them before erecting some really nice like residential buildings. And since 2014, when Russia first occupied Ukraine, we received a lot of people from the east, meaning companies were coming here, people, capital, and the city developed a lot, and the quality of accommodation also grew significantly. Тримай.
This definitely was the right decision to do in our situation, because in the worst case scenario even, she will be taken care of in a special institution for that. I'm not sure when we're gonna see each other again. Like, since we stay in the city, definitely we'll be able to visit her. We will see. And also I promised you to share the story of my grandmother. So all of my family originate from the territories that are now part of Poland. Before World War II, when all of my grandparents were born, you know, the borders in this part of Europe were different, and the distribution of ethnical population was also different. So in the present day area around Lviv, there were many Polish citizens, Jewish citizens. Usually Polish people were living in the towns, Jewish people obviously in the towns, and Ukrainians in the countryside. So the administration was run mostly by Polish people, business mostly by Jewish, and like some agrarian part, yes, the farms by Ukrainian population. So when the new borders have been formed, it appeared to be that there is large portion of Ukrainian population remaining in the newly formed Polish Soviet Republic, and there is large population of Poles that are still remaining in a Ukrainian Soviet Republic, which became part of USSR. As I understand, in order to prevent further possible, like some local uprisings, yes, and tensions, it was decided to move people. Like, can you believe it? Like, that people simply had to stand and go. So this was the so-called Wisla operation, which was held in the last years of World War II, and even extending a little bit behind it. And my family on the mother's line, including my grandmother, they originate from the ethnical group of Ukrainians who call themselves Lemkos. Their historical ethnical distribution is stretching along the mountains at the border between Poland and Ukraine. Their traditions go back to hundreds of years. Almost the entire Lemko population was forced to leave their places. Many of them fled to the Western world, to Canada, to United States. Many of them were resettled to Western Poland, to the territories regained from the Germany after World War II, and many of them were sent to the newly formed Ukrainian Socialist Republic. Just to be clear, I don't claim anything from Poland on this matter. There definitely have been some tough historical stages in the relation between Ukrainians and Polish people, but they're like really the best possible brothers, as you can see with this amazing support what Poland is doing now for Ukraine. It feels like this is a bridge to connect Ukrainians with the rest of the European community, and I'm very grateful for that. Dziękuję bardzo, moje przyjaciele. Ja właśnie też biegłem mówię po polsku i czekam na następne spotkanie. So it happened to be that my family was sent here to Western Ukraine. There are many details. It's possible to develop the topic of Lemko a lot, but I just want to concentrate on my grandmother because you already seen her. So as a child, can you believe, she had to stand up together with all the possessions they could carry, and for weeks using cows, dragging these chariots, or how do you call them, going across the border, looking for the house where they can settle in. So my grandmother still remembers those stories, and when she were feeling much better, she were telling a lot about this. I traveled to those areas, I did some research, and I even got some documents that their possessions, like how much, what parcels of land do they own, and so on. What also I noticed there is that when I was doing the research in the local administration of Nowy Sącz, it's the town in the southern Poland, I figured out that my grandmother is actually 2 years older than she thought she is. And her birthday is in September, not on the 1st of January as was written in her Soviet documents. So I believe when they were traveling with the family, there was some kind of situation that her parents told that she is younger a little bit, yes, which probably affected some enrollment in school or something. I'm not sure how it worked then. But that was like also big discovery for our family, and we started to celebrate the birthday of my grandmother twice per year. What's also interesting is that in her Soviet passport was written the nationality, and it was written Rusin, which is not Russian, obviously. Rusiny was the name Ukrainians living in this area, and if you take many documents from 100 years ago or more, like some Austrian documents, Polish documents, everywhere is written Rusin. So basically it goes all the way back to the history of Kievska Rus, which used to be one of the largest and most powerful medieval kingdoms in Europe. Kiev, as you know, was a major metropolis of its time. Moscow appeared as the local power only starting from 12th century, if I'm not mistaken. And then they developed as a kingdom up north, calling themselves Moscow Duchy, as Moscow Kingdom. And when the country became much more powerful, Peter I founded the new capital in St. Petersburg in 17-something, in the very beginning of the 18th century. And he took the name Rossiya, claiming that they are the successor of the previous glorious Eastern Slavic medieval state of Kievska Rus. But even the name Kievska Rus is telling us that, I mean, it originates from Kiev, right? And that's why now all this siege, all these damages that are happening, it's very symbolical for the government of Russia, for Putin, because he wants to claim that it's theirs. It's just unbelievable how things happen. You are welcome to do some discussions, because now we are touching really sensitive topics. I just want to put some dots in between to start the process, which is crucial. Many Ukrainians feel that their history is stolen, and now this is the time which really gives us a chance to restore the historical truth. And that's what we are fighting for as well here. You can read more about Lemkos below the link at this video. It's very interesting ethnicity. Andy Warhol is actually 100% Lemko, if you didn't know. And there are many other prominent people from there. So it's our land, and we are not planning to move anywhere from here. The story of my grandmother is just one example, but millions of people in Ukraine experienced different kind of tragedies. So now we are going to protect this place fiercely. We are fighting not only for our own culture and for the historical truth, but also we are protecting other nations in Europe from Eastern aggression. So guys, don't let us down. You have to support our resistance. As for me, I'm trying to document the historical time that children all around the world will be studying in the following decades. So if you would like to establish some personal touch, I'll be more than grateful. Below the video there is a link, and there are ways how you can support activity of our team. We strongly believe that everything what is produced now here is very valuable. That's it, guys. From me, I have to come back to work. There are many things has to be done, and looking forward to see you in the next videos. I have no idea how the situation in Ukraine will develop. See you.